Good morning, everyone. We'll call a meeting to order. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, Ben.
Our fire and greater shops.
You want it more in council then? Or? Okay. I'll move that till this afternoon then. Any other additions? Colton?
Sorry, there we go. It should be southeast 18, 24, 25 west of the 4th, not the southeast 4, 24, 24.
Okay, thank you.
So what is it again? So
It should be the southeast 18, 24, 25 west of the 4th.
Okay. Any other additions? Don?
just a question. Subdivision is like.
All right, could you maybe incorporate that into the?
Through the chair, there was a decision made by the planning staff to remove division numbers and names from the reports for moving forward, so decision-making is solely focused on the actual land use application or subdivision that's present. We don't want the focus to be so much on whether it's in a certain division or whether it's tied to a certain person's name. So that was a decision that was made moving forward for these reports.
Let's put that down under other planning matters. Maybe that deserves a discussion. Okay. Division and names, division numbers and names on applications. Okay, any other additions? Ben has moved the amended agenda. All in favor? Carried. Who speaks up gets the word. Approval of the July 18, 2017 MPC minutes.
Aye, so move the approval of
Okay.
the MPC minutes.
Brenda's moved.
July
Any
18th.
questions or concerns? Not seeing any. All in favor? Carried. And we'll move on to development permit applications. DP 2017-91. Good morning.
So it is the recommendation of the Development Department that MPC choose option 2 to refuse this variance request. The variance request is because the manufactured dwelling, which has been proposed to be utilized as a garden suite, does not meet current A277 standards, which is the standard for manufactured homes constructed after 1992. And I'll just go through my report. It's file number 2017-91, dwelling suite with garden, or garden suite with variance request to the A277 standard. It's located northwest 9, 2424, which is about 5 miles east of Strathmore, just south of the county office, across the road, across the number 1 highway there. It's a 22.75 acre parcel, zoned Ag General. A permit was issued for a temp dwelling in 2002, renewed in 2005, 2008, and 2014. The dwelling has been used as a therapeutic tool by allowing special needs clients to reside on the same property as the landowner while maintaining their own living space and increasing their independent living skills. The current temp dwelling permit is for a 3-year term and will expire on August 18th. Under the current land use bylaw, a temp dwelling is no longer listed as a use under any zone. The applicant would like to utilize the temp dwelling as a garden suite, which is a discretionary use in the current land use bylaw. The application meets all setback and size stipulations prescribed by the land use bylaw. However, a variance is requested because the bylaw states all manufactured dwellings shall meet A277 standards, and this dwelling does not meet that requirement. All manufactured or modular homes constructed after 1992 meet the A277 standard, which is in compliance with Alberta Building Code and the National Building Code. So section 8.7.1 of the land use bylaw is the stipulation about the A277. A garden suite is discretionary in the land use bylaw, and it does meet all other requirements for a garden suite. MPC, as the development authority, may approve a development permit even though it does not comply with this bylaw or is a non-conforming building if, in their opinion, the proposed development would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood, materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels, or the proposed development conforms with a similar use prescribed for that land or building. Agency circulation was performed to Alberta Health Services, and I just got the response yesterday, so I've handed it out to you. And did you want me to read it or summarize it, or?
Summarize it.
Okay, so it's their basic comments regarding water wells and septic and nuisance, but they did also add that if the property will be used to accommodate clients, please ensure that the property complies with all aspects of the Alberta Housing Regulation and the Alberta Minimum Housing and Health Standards, and that AHS would appreciate receiving information regarding the proposed source of drinking water and the type of wastewater system. Please note that the drinking water must be potable if clients will be accommodated in this dwelling. And the WID had no concerns. There was no concerns from the file review meeting and no responses from any neighbors. It is the recommendation, once again, to refuse the application because it does not comply with current standards. And there is the location. So here's the county office, and here is the parcel of land right across the road. There's the primary residence. There's the proposed garden suite. It meets the setback between of 40 feet. There's an inspection photo. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Bernice?
Through the chair, can you tell me, like, do these people live in this place permanently, or is it, do they move in and out? How many are there? And what are the qualifications for him to have these people there? Are they safe? So,
I would let the applicant speak to that.
I work for CPLF.
Please use the podium and state your name, please.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
need to come over here.
I'm Brian Donegan. I work for CPLF. I've worked for them for 16 years. For 14 years, I've had in-home clients. Most of my clients are schizophrenically, mentally delayed adults, and as they work up through their skills and issues, through therapy, community work involved, we work on independent skills for a living situation. So they live with me, progress to next door, and either stay or move on. And most often they move on as they get more independent.
so some of them are right in your home,
Oh, yes, I'm
hands-on,
contracted
and then
through,
as they get better, they move into,
not everyone does.
yeah, I realize that.
You can have a maximum of 3 clients through the government with CPLF. And because I've been doing it for 6 years, each client is a contract. I mean, not 6 years, for the 14 years residential. Some might be there for a year. Some might be, my longest client was 12 years. I'd resided next door, and so it's just one client per time in that. Yeah, it's not a group home. It's, you're contracted as individual single supports. And every year it's the same, every 3 years it's been the same use for, that it's been approved and continue to do so. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Ben?
I don't know so much questions, but comments. I know when I read this in our file, it's been bothering me ever since I read it, because to me, if it was a new request coming in to set this up, then I would look at it differently. Because it's been there for 12, 14 years, and it's come in, and according to the record, it's coming in 2005, it's coming in 2008 and 14 for renewals, and it's met all the conditions for those renewals. And now, because we've changed our land use bylaw, I'm thinking that what it doesn't meet doesn't make sense to me. To me, it should be grandfathered, because it's been there this long and it's been working. There hasn't been any complaints from the neighbors that I'm aware of. There's nothing ever come to us about it. So if it, like you said, if it was a new application for a new one in there, then yeah, it meet all those codes. But for me, I'm not concerned with it. I would give it under the grandfathering clause and let it remain.
And I currently don't have anyone in there, haven't for a year and a half. I have someone who will probably be ready to go in by December, who's currently residing with me. It's just that process.
Yeah, I realize. I
And all
remember
my
when you came
power
in.
and water and everything comes in through that as well. So to remove it would be a little costly hardship for me as well. It's always been accepted, so it's, okay, thank you.
Brenda?
Don't go away. Question, it's insured like every other property and all the other things on your property?
Yes.
And you've met the approval of your CFL, is that the
CPLF.
CPLF?
And it's actually not even CPLF that I have to meet their standard. It's, what's the name now? It's who distributes funds for all clients in the province. It's a government office where I have to have 5 million in auto insurance alone. So it's all regulated.
So it's all and you've regulated it through
Yes.
theirs as well, so, okay.
Yes, and
Thank
through
you.
CPLF and through the Office of the Public Guardian and Calgary Health Services, so.
Okay,
Like it's
thank you.
all, they watch you pretty well.
That's what I thought, that's
They
why I
do.
was asking, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions while he's standing there? So do they actually come out and inspect the building, or they know what kind of building you have there?
I have public guardians come to my home once a month, support staff case management from my agency come every month per client. So it's 3 visits a month.
Okay,
All the insurance has to be, everything just has to be up to date all the time, and fire extinguishers.
okay.
I don't usually have a stove over there even. Do the cooking in my home. So it's more often than not a private bedroom with living room and bathroom experience next door. And we do the cooking and eating in my home for the most part. By the time someone's capable to do most everything else by themselves, they will probably move into another location, apartment in the city, closer to their programs, and have an occasional supportive staff come in. So,
Okay. Sounds good. There's
Okay.
no other questions? Okay, thanks for coming in. Any other questions, concerns? Bernice?
Okay, if we vote against the recommendations, what does the Alberta Healthcare do? Will they, going by this letter?
I've prepared sample conditions, and I've put as a note that all provisions of Alberta Health Services need to be met. So I've sent Mr. Donegan, this morning, I sent him Alberta Health Services recommendations. So they need to be in touch with each other.
Okay. Any other questions? Wishes?
Can I see some of the conditions for approval?
Sure. You got some sample conditions in case we
This development permit is issued solely for the purpose of an existing manufactured dwelling, a second dwelling, defined as a dwelling garden suite. A variance has been granted to waive the A277 standard for manufactured dwellings, LUB Section 8.7.1. Development shall proceed according to Ag General requirements. No permanent development on or over any utility right-of-way or easement. Applicant to ensure approaches developed to county standards. And my notes, construction to conform to Alberta Safety Code regulations. Development shall meet all provincial and federal legislation, including all provisions of Alberta Health Services.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Go ahead and move DP, sorry. File SD 2016-78 with the conditions given. No, I'm in the wrong one, sorry. DP 2017-91 with the conditions given.
Okay. Any questions?
Part of that, did you recommend, what do you?
Conditions on the, that he's moved approval of it.
Okay.
Okay. Approval of, with the variances. He's not moving approval of the recommendation, right? Right. Approval. Any other questions? Yeah, to approve the application with conditions that were listed. Anything else? All in favor? Carried. Thanks for coming in. Good luck. Okay, I'll move to subdivision applications, SD 2016-78. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, subdivision application SD 2016-78. The application is to subdivide one parcel totaling 5 acres in size from the parent parcel. Staff is recommending option 1, that the subdivision application be approved with the conditions noted in Appendix A, as the application largely aligns with the MDP, the land use bylaw, and staff has prepared conditions that will address the outstanding deficiencies and alignment concerns with this application. Third reading of this parcel was this area was rezoned on December 13th, 2016 to Country Residential District. I'll just go down to the location map as I go through the report here. So it's adjacent to Highway 1 and Range Road 255. It's approximately 1.6 kilometers west of the town of Strathmore. The legal description is the Southeast 18, 24, 25. The titled area is 160 acres, so it is an unsubdivided quarter section. And the existing land uses are agricultural general district, and then the 5 acres that were rezoned to country residential district. They're proposing one new parcel. This is a bit of municipal policy review. The proposed subdivision aligns with some aspects of the MDP while contradicting others in terms of servicing capability. It does not significantly fragment agricultural land further, as the proposed plan area is not currently farmed and bordered by existing shelter belts with a driveway access. That said, there is a degree of fragmentation, as this is not the original home site for this parcel and is otherwise high-quality agricultural land. Due to the small parcel size and existing features, as well as the previous redesignation, the agricultural fragmentation is minimal, and there is a degree of buffering from the adjacent agricultural uses. In terms of impacting environmentally sensitive areas such as wetlands, staff is of the opinion that there are no wetlands or environmentally sensitive areas within the plan area. We determined this through reviewing the wetland mapping in our MuniSite system, as well as historical aerial photography. The application was also circulated to Alberta Environment, who had no concerns with the parcels from an environmental perspective. Staff does have concern with potential existing contamination and soil disturbances that require further analysis from a professional firm. The private septic disposal system report noted that the subject area identified heavy salts in an unusual compacted clay layer over silty loam. The county's engineering consultants noted concerns that the disturbed area on the proposed development site may be the result of historical lease drilling operations, and recommended that a Phase 1 environmental site assessment be completed to review the history of the property to determine if there is in fact potential for environmental or health concern. The applicant was provided with this request that we would like to see that study completed. They chose not to complete it, so we have added it as a condition of the subdivision approval if this is approved by MPC. Once I received their comments back from McElhaney, I circulated them to Alberta Health Services as well, who then revised their initial comments based on the additional information, noting that they would like to see a Phase 1 ESA completed as well for the subject parcel. As a condition, as noted, a Phase 1 ESA and any subsequent ESAs will be required if warranted to the satisfaction of the county. If the ESAs are completed and there are no concerns and/or existing concerns are mitigated, staff is comfortable there is alignment with Section 3.2 of the Municipal Development Plan. In terms of alignment with the water resources section of the MDP, staff has concerns based on comments from our consulting engineers in regards to water availability and quality on the parcel. The MDP notes the importance of clean drinking water and groundwater for all development within the county. As the servicing section of this report will note in greater detail, the adequate information was not provided to staff in regards to this proposed subdivision. Staff will therefore be requiring a full groundwater site assessment as a condition of subdivision approval in alignment with recommendations from our consulting engineers. In terms of the land use bylaw, the proposed subdivision area was designated to country residential district, so there is alignment with that. All future development will be required to align with those rules and regulations. I'll then go into the technical review. The proposed parcel does have an existing access off of Range Road 255. As a condition of subdivision approval, the landowner will be required to ensure the approach is built and located to county standards for both the proposed and remnant parcels. In terms of water well servicing, we do have concerns due to the number of wells existing in the subject area. The Alberta Water Well Information Database indicates there are at least 9 water wells within a quarter section distance of the said well. Bringing on a new water well in a well field may have an effect on the water supply for the adjacent wells, and for this reason, sustainability is a consideration. Section 23(3) under the 2014 Alberta Water Act states that for a subdivision of land, a person residing within that subdivision on a parcel of land that adjoins or is above a source of water has the right to commence and continue the diversion of water if, quotes, a report certified by a professional engineer or geoscientist was submitted to the subdivision authority that states the diversion of 1,250 cubic meters of water per year for household purposes for each household within the subdivision does not interfere with any existing household users or licensees when the subdivision is approved. A typical household, it's assumed that each household will not utilize more than the daily 3.42 meters cubed a day or the annual 1,250 allotment. We never received a groundwater study or site assessment despite our request, and that is a standard requirement for bare land subdivisions. That's why this is being required as a condition of subdivision to assess whether the aquifer underlying the proposed subdivision can support the additional water well without negatively impacting the existing groundwater users in the area. The water well should be sampled and the groundwater should be analyzed for routine potability parameters to assess water quality. Should it be found that issues exist, the water well owner must be informed and advised that treatment will be required to meet drinking water quality standards. It will also be recommended that the water is tested post-treatment to ensure all parameters meet the drinking water standards. As per the review, a full groundwater study or pump test completed by a professional engineer will be required to assess impacts on adjacent wells as well as to ensure the water quality meets Canadian drinking water standards. In terms of sanitary servicing, the applicant submitted a private sewage treatment study dated December 12, 2016. This was reviewed and was found to meet the requirements of the Alberta 2015 Standard of Practice for Sewage Systems. Given this review and sign-off, County has no concerns with the septic servicing of this proposed parcel. In terms of municipal reserve, as per the Municipal Government Act, as this is the first parcel out of the quarter section, no municipal reserve as cash in lieu is required as a condition of subdivision approval. We circulated the proposal to all landowners within a mile of the subject lands, with no letters being received in either support or objection to the application at the time the report was prepared. I'll now go through the comments. Alberta Health Services had their standard comments, but they did add that they concur that a Phase 1 ESA should be required. And they also noted they don't support communal or shared water systems, although that was not indicated in this application. They just put that in their precautionary. Alberta Transportation was circulated due to the proximity to the highway. They noted that the subdivision application complies with Section 14 of the regulation, as it involves the creation of a single undeveloped residential parcel located over 300 meters from Highway 1 and complies with the land use bylaw. Additionally, the access to the new and balanced parcels will be via the municipal road network, precluding the need for a service road. ATCO Pipelines noted that they had no objections. Ember Resources attached survey plans noting the 2 well sites within the plan area. They noted that the interested parties should be aware of the setback requirements. So once they'd submitted their application, when we had seen the well sites within the area, we had sent it back to the surveyor, and I requested a tentative plan showing the buildable area, taking into account side yard and well setbacks, and staff satisfied there is enough buildable area within the parcel for a dwelling. TELUS noted that they have no objections. And then internally, Agricultural Services noted because the parcel has previously been rezoned to CR and managed for acreage space, shelter belts, and driveways, Agricultural Services supports this application. However, the land does represent good agricultural land in the county, and the development results in its fragmentation and loss. Development Services noted that the site plan shows an oil and gas well, and that is there a buildable site? As noted, we determined there is a buildable site. And then Transportation and Infrastructure Services noted that the new approach will need to be paved. Just go through the maps that accompany the subdivision application now. So you'll see here, this is the tentative plan. The dotted area, I'll just zoom in. The dashed area here, that's the buildable area. So you'll see a significant portion of the acreage is undevelopable due to the wellhead that's here. But they still have a buildable area of 1.8 acres. This is the circulation map. And that. And those are both of the maps, so I'll just go back up to my recommendation. And then, okay. I don't know what's going on with this PDF. Okay, we'll go down to the bottom recommendation. I'm not sure why the program is doing that again. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Alice?
There was one, and maybe go back to the surface map, if you would, Colton, please. You talked about salt or some kind of issue with the land, maybe through drilling or something. Can you show me where that is occurred? Because if you take our ag service report, it's good ag land, so it's kind of contradicting that. So maybe we can get a little more clarification on what you were trying to portray to us of what was the issue.
Absolutely. So the Agricultural Services Report is based off of information that they find through provincial databases and our own registries. They're not actually going out and doing soil tests on the subject parcel. So their information is based on larger regional trends and tests that weren't necessarily, didn't happen right exactly on this parcel. The PSDS report that noted the salty and the silty soils, that is actually a result of actual tests of the specific soils on that parcel that noted potential contamination. So when they went out to do the test to see if the soils were suitable for a septic system, the abnormalities were noted in the PSDS report, which triggered McElhaney to require the Phase 1 ESA.
So when they found that silty product, they assumed it was probably from drilling And was it on a large area or was it on a limited space, like it was not covering the whole 5 acres, I assume? Or did they,
Through the chair,
Sure.
sorry.
that's okay.
Sorry for that. Through the chair, the tests would have been done in a few areas within the parcel, but they wouldn't, the goal of the PSDS wouldn't even have been to try to trigger that phase 1 ESA or actually note the abnormalities or the actual area that they took place in. So I can't comment on exactly how large that area was. However,
Okay.
they usually do a few samples, so it would have been in a significant area for McElhaney to note it as a concern. And with the wellhead so close to the subject parcel, there's additional definite merit for a phase 1 environmental site assessment.
Okay, thanks, Colton.
Any other questions? Don?
Is that an abandoned well site or a proposed well site to be abandoned?
It's still an active well site.
Any other questions? Concerns? MPC's wishes. Bernice?
I also move subdivision application SD 2016-78 with all the approved conditions to be followed.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. And subdivision file number SD 2016-79. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so this is subdivision application SD 2016-79, which proposes to subdivide 20 acres from the title area. Recommendation from staff is option 2, subdivision application SD 2017-79 be refused based off of the following reasons. The proposed subdivision does not meet the relevant objectives of the MDP. The proposed subdivision fragments high quality productive agricultural land, and it does not meet the relevant goals and policies of the regional growth management strategy. So this is the location plan for the subject area, just off of Township Road 232 and 205. So the page is just long to accommodate the section that we're looking at. It's a longer 80-acre split, so it's a little long at the moment, but I think this should be fine. It just shows the subdivision in relation to the 80-acre split and the plan for it. Okay, so for background on this application, the intent is to separate the homestead from the parent parcel and to provide additional land surrounding the property for future agricultural uses. The subdivision includes an active Encana oil well, 2 grain bins, and an existing dwelling with a recently permitted accessory building. In discussion with the landowner on the intents and purposes of the subdivision, the landowner explained the intent to continue having the adjacent land harvested by another farmer, and the 20-acre subdivision would ideally be passed on to family in the future. Staff, however, do not see this reasoning as sufficient for a subdivision that will ultimately remove 20 acres of high-quality agricultural land and cause fragmentation with opportunities for future subdivision. Through the municipal policy review, there is no existing area structure plan, so it was reviewed through the municipal development plan, the regional growth management strategy plan, and land use bylaw. The subdivision would remain agricultural general based off of the acreage size of 20 acres. The maintenance of the parcel's agricultural general designation would promote continued use of the land for more extensive agricultural uses based on the permitted uses within the district. However, the 20-acre subdivision does not align with the core objectives of Section 3.1 of the MDP, as the intention of the agricultural general district and land use bylaw is to maintain the goals and objectives of the MDP. The application would subdivide and fragment 20 acres of prime cultivated agricultural land, which goes against objectives 3.11 of the MDP. The subdivision includes cultivated agricultural lands outside the existing footprint of the residence, which will fragment productive agricultural land. The existing residence on the proposed parcel creates a conflict between the agricultural lands because it is not properly buffered and encroaches on the farmland, also going against objective 3.6.1. Agricultural Services submitted an agricultural land assessment which recommended denial for the proposed application. Although the proposed parcel would still maintain its agricultural general district, the fragmentation of the land from the parent parcel does not reflect the mandates of the MDP. The proposed subdivision provides opportunities for future fragmentation and subdivision based on the size of the proposed parcel and the number of parcels currently subdivided from the quarter. Through the Regional Growth Management Strategy, there are 11 themes used to assess each community in the county for future growth potential. One such theme, agriculture, was examined for this application, and the adjoining principles and relevant goals were examined in order to assess its relevance to the RGMS. The analysis found that the subdivision proposal does not meet the relevant goals for this theme. The proposed subdivision would not only further fragment agricultural land, which is currently an 80-acre split, the existing residential footprint conflicts with the surrounding agricultural land, as there is no sufficient buffer between the two uses to minimize land use conflicts. Through the land use bylaw, it is zoned agricultural general, and the current use on the land and the existing buildings and structures meet the land use bylaw for the district. The existing dwelling, accessory structure, and grain bins are permitted uses, and the setback from the road right-of-way to the primary residence and the setbacks on the side and backyards have also been met. Through the technical review, access is through Township Road 232, and access to the remnant parcel is proposed between the remnant and proposed subdivision, as can be seen on the map. So just here in between the existing remnant parcel and the proposed area by the landowner. For servicing, the dwelling currently has existing septic and water, and therefore staff have no concerns. Municipal reserve, because the land is not terminal, staff would not require municipal reserve as per section 663 of the MGA. At the time of circulation, the circulation radius was a half mile, which has since changed with the adoption of the land use bylaw. Therefore, the previous circulation will apply for this application. No letters were received in either support or objection to the application at the time the report was made. For circulation to external agencies, Alberta Environment had no concerns. Alberta Health Services had their standard comments. ATCO Gas requested a utility right-of-way, and the condition was met. ATCO Pipelines had no concerns. Encana Corporation had no issues with the grain bins within the 100-meter wellhead buffer. Fortis Alberta had no concerns. TELUS had no concerns, and WID had no concerns. I'm just going to go up. Oh, you can't really read it, unfortunately. From Agricultural Services, fragmentation of agricultural land will occur. The recommendation is to take out the land that is directly around the existing homestead to maintain the intactness of the agricultural parcel. They did not see any impacts on the environment as the expected subdivision would not affect anything within the area. Development Services requested that all developments within the new proposed boundaries meet setbacks, and the access to the remnant parcel should be identified on the site plan, which it has. Transportation and infrastructure, they suggested the proposed layout does not allow for legal access to southern property. Redesign of the layout recommended. Approaches to the proposed lot and balance must be constructed to county specifications. So on the map showing where the proposed parcel would be taken out, there is a recommended area for an access to occur. So at the time, if this is approved by MPC, the access would be accommodated and built to county standards. So recommendation, there's two options for MPC's consideration. Option 1, that subdivision application SD 2016-79 be approved with conditions noted in Appendix A. And option 2, subdivision application SD 2016-79 be refused. Staff is recommending option 2 refusal. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Alice?
Confusion, I would say, a question. We've done a number of these in our areas all across the Wheatland County. And it seems that we're using the municipal development plan to say it's not meeting what our municipal development plan on the broad thought complies with. I guess my question is, how do we balance this? It seems to me the new land use bylaw is creating some of these questions. And maybe I will direct that to Angie for an answer, please. Your thoughts on that?
Sorry. I think what has happened in the past, MPC needs to be careful on using past decisions to make current decisions.
Right.
As I understand, in the time that I've been here, through listening to both MPC and council commentary, Wheatland County feels that agricultural land is extremely important within the county for a number of reasons. Industrial, as a commercial use, as an industrial use, you don't want to impact your agricultural lands. You don't want to impact it from a residential perspective either. So I know these are difficult decisions to make, but you have to look at your MDP very clearly and determine what was the vision and goals of that plan, what did it want Wheatland County to be, and try very hard to adhere to that. Every time you veer away from that, you're losing the vision and goals. The land use bylaw is a tool and a mechanism to help you implement that municipal development plan. There is a slight disconnect at this point in time because the land use bylaw has been updated. However, the land use bylaw was updated to meet the municipal development plan because the municipal development plan was far more current than your land use bylaw. I think on many levels that has been able to happen. There is still some disconnect, but overall your MDP still stands. It will be up for review in 2018, 2019, along with many other statutory plans. But from my perspective in looking at it, I think it's still a very solid document.
So my other question then on that, in this case, we have the land is still being held as agricultural. So we're not changing the designation. All we're doing is we're making a parcel, right? A 20-acre parcel that is allowed to have agricultural activities on it. So then it would put the question back, we aren't changing the designation, so we're not taking away from the agricultural sector. Still going to be designated Ag General. So how do we balance that in our own land use? Because we allow both. And in this case, we're saying, no, we're going to split. We're splitting agricultural off because we're actually making a parcel, 20-acre parcel. But it's not changing the use. So how do we balance that?
Through the chair, what the planning department is trying to point out here is a couple of things. First of all, when you subdivide a parcel out, at this point in time, the zoning is not changing, but it doesn't mean that it can't change in the future.
Later, yeah.
That 20 acres could change in the future. The applicant or landowner could come in and request it be changed to country residential. You would then have two parcels that interact not well with each other, as we know. During harvesting time, etc., there can be, negative comments from country residential and dealing with dust, etc. Another issue could be that 20-acre parcel could then be requested to be subdivided once again. Right. So that is where you start to get an increase of fragmented land, and then you have effectively then rezoned and taken out 20 acres of what is deemed to be good agricultural land. So it's the future that you need to be looking at here, not just this initial request, but what you set up and can be allowed to happen in the future, which you then would have difficulty in saying no to.
So on to that next question then. He's allowed an acreage or a home. There is a home on that. So then to minimize the fragmentation, possibly a smaller, like a 3-acre parcel, something like that could be looked at in this case so that it doesn't fragment as much and it would still accomplish possibly what he wants, maybe not everything, but we could look at that as he's allowed that for a home. So was that discussed with this application?
Through the chair to Councillor Booth. It was discussed in the early stages of the application because at the original time that this was submitted, it would have had to be rezoned to agricultural small holdings. And so we discussed several options. However, the landowner was adamant on keeping it at 20 acres to include the wellhead because of the revenue generated from incorporating it into that subdivided parcel. The issue is the fact that even if it was subdivided into a smaller parcel, say 5 or 10 acres, you still have the issue of land use conflict. You have a residence that's existed on this agricultural parcel that's been split into an 80-acre split, and the buffer around it is not sufficient. It would cause probably issues in the future for anyone who were to purchase the land and trying to establish a homestead there. We're also trying to avoid country residential parcels in areas that are not appropriate for it. Having a country residential parcel on a quarter section that is primarily agriculture would not be deemed an appropriate land use or subdivision for the county. We try to focus country residential parcels in areas where growth is already generated, such as the hamlets, Carsland, Cheadle, Layalta, because the amenities and services are there. The cost to service a country residential parcel so far out from a growth node that's established through the Regional Growth Management Strategy Plan ends up being more costly to the county and does not generate the tax revenue that would justify a subdivided parcel of that nature.
I've been interested in what you've said, and it makes sense, but is the applicant here that we could hear the other side?
Through the chair to Bernice, yes.
Good.
I'll finish with the councillor questions
Yes,
before, then we'll get the applicant. Okay, Brenda?
So I have before me today an application for a subdivided parcel into Ag General of 20 acres. I've heard staff sit here and say, well, they could do this in the future and they can do that in the future in country residential and set it up. But that's not what's before me here today. So unfortunately, it is a 20-acre parcel. It's going to remain in Ag General because of that size. I would assume that that's within our land use bylaw. For me, it's what it is, which is what's in front of me, what he does in 10 years from now, or another board, or another land use change, or whatever. But for me, it's not going out of Ag General, he's just subdividing it. So that would be, it would be something if he was changing it to country residential, but that request isn't sitting in front of us, and that's not the request that I need to make a decision on, so.
Any other questions, concerns? Ben?
Just to, excuse me, just to comment to the chair, we also as council have to remember, as MPC have to remember that when we're looking at these subdivisions, and Angie spoke to it very clearly, some of them are difficult, but we are not here to, how do I put this? Part of our duties sitting here is not to indulge in estate planning. And according to the background on this information, that's what this is estate planning, and that shouldn't be one of our considerations when we're looking at these documents. So to me, it's still agricultural land.
Okay. Colton?
Through the chair, I would like to note what is before you today is still fragmentation of agricultural land. Fragmentation is not based on land use redesignation, and that's not even how the province defines it. Parcels, when there's subdivision that occurs on quarter sections, it's fragmentation, whether it's country residential or agricultural general. As to the suitability and potential uses for smaller ag, that's a debate for another time in terms of what could take place on these smaller parcels, but it is still fragmentation regardless of whether it's an 80-acre split or a 5-acre split. With our new land use bylaw, which isn't particularly as relevant to this particular application due to the land use, someone could come in with a 6-acre parcel, say it's ag general, but in reality it's just a pseudo country residential parcel. They just avoided the redesignation aspect of it. So I would like to note that this is still a fragmentation of agricultural land, even though there's not the land use that accompanies that.
Through the chair to Councillor Knight, there is also a provision within the agricultural district in the new land use bylaw that has a provision that subdivisions would create subdivisions that create one or more linear parcels from a quarter section are prohibited. So in this case, it's creating a linear 20-acre parcel on an 80-acre split. What should also be noted is that when the planning department and the staff go through these applications, we have to take in consideration all the statutory documents and documents that are in place at the county, passed by council over the years, and we need to look at how they meet them or do not meet them. In this case, even though there is a residence on the parcel, you're still splitting and you're still fragmenting, as Colton mentioned, a parcel out of an agricultural quarter. You have the potential for that quarter to be, or sorry, for that parcel proposed here at this time to be developed outside of the existing and remnant parcel because it is subdivided. Whoever comes in to buy it, they can change the use on that land by either subdivision or because there is a new boundary line created, they can develop it to their own needs. Whether the existing farming practice is going on, a new landowner can change that.
Okay, any other comments? Go back to the map. It looks like we're setting up a panhandle too. That's not a road allowance there, is it off? That's a panhandle.
Through the chair, that's correct. That would be a panhandle.
Okay. So that'd be access for the rest of the parcel.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments? Don?
Couldn't you put a condition on there if you did approve this that any future use would be agriculture?
Through the chair, no, that would not be possible. It's up to the new landowner to decide that. We as the county don't have the power to inform a new landowner or the current landowner to maintain that agricultural parcel. It's out of our hands.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, your turn. Are you the applicant? Yes, please. Come use the podium and state your name, please.
My name is Giovanni Dracchio. I've lived there for 11 years, and where you see my house, I haven't done anything else to the land. I've only let it be farmland. Okay, and the person that's that wants to buy my land, Grant Gregory, he farms all around there. He does the acreage, the quarter section on this side, and he does a couple this way. And I'm not getting any younger. I'm going to be retiring probably by the time I'm 70. Now, this, for everybody else, the economy has been pretty good until 2014. For me, it's been bad since 2008. In 2011, my wife got sick. I ended up giving up some of my custom. I sandblast concrete for a living. I do sandblasting and painting, but mostly concrete. And because the economy went bad, when my wife was sick, taking her back and forth to see doctors in the hospital and all this, I went deeper into debt. Now, I'm not selling the land at its value. I'm selling it for about almost half of what it's worth to Grant Gregory. He does all the farming around there. And when I retire, when I'm about 70, my mobile will be about 20 years old. Now, that's easily removable to a trailer park. Grant Gregory, on the bill of sale, will have the first chance at buying my land, my 20 acres. That 20 acres provides me with money over the winter because of my seasonal work, put it that way. Now, the economy has been picking up, but I still need to sell that 60 acres so that I can survive. Now, I figure I'll have to work till I'm about 70 and then retire, live another maybe 5 or 6 years. By that time, mobiles are only made to last 25 years. So it either has to be removed or torn down, you know. So what I'm saying is the land is not going to change. I have never fenced it off or anything. The only parts I've used is where my house is at, but I need the other part to survive on. Now, if I were to reduce it to just whatever it is around my house, I'd have to put in a new septic system. I don't know where it's going to empty out to. I have to be 300 feet away from a property, the adjoining property. And on that side is mostly coulee anyways, if you only see in my part of the land. But on the other half of that quarter section is mostly coulee, which is owned by, I think, Fraser. And he lets Grant do all the farming on that. But that's my predicament. Now, I don't plan on, if you guys want, you can put a clause in there saying that this land has to remain agricultural so that it cannot be sold unless it's being sold as agricultural, which Grant will purchase when I'm ready to go. That's my only dilemma. I don't know about the future, what he's going to do when he buys it, because he's going to buy it anyways. And he eventually will be buying from me in Agerskoff. He'll be buying the land on the other side. And from Fraser, he'll end up buying this one. Because Fraser only uses it for motorcycles, doing dirt bike things there. Other than that, he lets them farm it.
Any questions? Rex?
Well, just a couple comments. Like I understand that the wellhead provides some personal revenue. I know in a couple other land transactions, you can state that you get the income from that well for a certain amount of time, or you increase the value of the property you're selling because they're regaining that income back. So that might help get you down to the acre you need for your homestead.
Pardon me, I didn't quite understand that.
Okay, so I'll explain it one more time. So the wellhead that's on there that you're generating revenue from.
Right.
Okay, so in some land transactions, I could sell that property to somebody with the condition that I receive the income from that well for a certain period of time, whether it's 10 years or whatever it is, so that I don't have that income. If that doesn't fly, then you increase the value of the land that you're selling to accommodate the loss of income that you would not be receiving from that well. Which at that point, then you could make the parcel smaller to comply with the LUP.
When I bought this land from me in Agerskoff, I made that deal with him. And it turned out that you can't do it. He wanted the money from the well for the first year. Because I bought it in, I think it was June or July.
Okay.
And he wanted the money for the year for that well.
So if that's...
that was a condition of the sale, right?
Right. So
and when the sale came down, I was told that's not the way it works.
Okay, so if that is in fact true, then you would increase the price of the property, knowing that he's going to regain that income back.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find a solution that would help you out.
Then, and as for the grain bins, I've always been a lover of wildlife, okay? And I have owls living in those grain bins. Every once in a while, if they look like they're gonna fall down, I go over and fix them. I don't know how long owls live or anything like that, but they do kill a lot of mice. Now, my reason also for selling that land is mobiles have a belly bag underneath it, whatever you want to call it, okay? And mice just go right through that. And that land is infested with mice. Now, I want to make that house mouse-proof for at least the next 10 years by buying wire mesh, quarter-inch wire mesh that I can put underneath on the belly bag, but I don't have the money for it, and they're slowly destroying my house. I really don't know what else to say.
Okay.
Like, Grant is the only one that is actually willing to buy the land, but not for the full, not for what it's valued at. You know, and basically, even if I don't think I'd be able to sell it to anybody else because of the proximity of the hog barns right beside it. Something I didn't know about the start when I bought the land.
Okay, thanks for coming up. Any questions? Well, okay, thanks for your explanation. Ben?
Through the chair, and I don't even want to go into that, but we're, as MPC, we're not here to decide on issues about land value and whether or not you can sell your land for more or less and estate planning. I wouldn't want to make my decision here today based on the information that you're selling it to a certain landowner, because I know for a fact that there are lots of landowners out there willing to buy ag land. And they aren't worried about a hog barn, and there's lots of them around that area, so. Well, that's what I said, I'm not going to get into that debate, and I don't want to use that information as part of for my decision-making either, so.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Brenda?
For me, it's back to the original, which was, it's still remaining ag general, so I don't have an issue with the subdivision as long as it remains in the ag general. It's the disappearance of ag land that I'm worried about, so I would prefer a stipulation that it never become country residential versus that. I don't have a problem with a 20-acre small hobby farm anywhere.
Okay. Any other comments? MPC's wishes.
I so move to accept option 1 for SD 2016-79. Option 1 is approval with all conditions.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's lost. Okay, thanks for coming in. And we'll move on to subdivision 2017-16.
All right, so this is subdivision application SD 2017-16, which proposes to subdivide 2 5-acre parcels from the title area. Staff is recommending option 1, subdivision application SD 2017-16 be approved with the conditions noted in Appendix A. The proposed application aligns with the Regional Growth Management Strategy. The proposed application aligns with the Eagle Lake ASP. The proposed application meets the rules and regulations of the Country Residential District of the Land Use Bylaw. and it does not impact environmentally sensitive areas given its distance from wetlands and other riparian areas. So these are the subject lands in relation to Town of Strathmore and Eagle Lake. As can be seen, it is within the Eagle Lake Area Structure Plan, just southwest of Hamlet of Namika. And this is the proposed subdivision. So location is adjacent to Range Road 250, approximately 0.6 kilometers south of Eagle Lake. Legal description is Block 3, Plan 991-3137 in the southern 1923-24 west of the 4. Title area is 157.6 acres and existing land use is agricultural general. The purpose of this subdivision application is to divide two 5-acre parcels from the parent parcel. The 10-acre parcel was recently redesignated Country Residential District, file number LU 2016-57. Approximately 450 meters of the parent parcel was the recently subdivided Eagle Head subdivision, which resulted in 3 lots. The Eagle Head Area Structure Plan, which encompassed the nearby northern parcel, was repealed on June 20th, 2017. The proposed subdivision and parcel is owned by a different entity than the Eagle Head lands and does not fall within the Eagle Head ASP. However, as previously mentioned, it is a part of the Eagle Lake Area Structure Plan. Through the MDP, MDP notes the key challenge of Wheatland County is to accommodate growth and development in appropriate areas while minimizing the impact on the agricultural land base, natural environment, and water resources, existing communities, and quality of life. This application addresses all of these challenges as it focuses development in an appropriate area, as noted in the MDP, does not significantly impact the agricultural land, and subdivision is appropriately set back from the existing environmentally sensitive areas. As noted in the attached agricultural assessment, grazing land will be lost if this subdivision and subsequent subdivision is approved. Lost if this subdivision is approved. Staff weighed the statutory ASP and growth focus of the Eagle Lake and the MDP when considering the impacts this will have, and is the opinion that the impacts on the agricultural land base will be minimal given its piece's history and adjacent development activity. This application is strongly aligned with policy 3.22, which states that the county shall encourage all development applications to include land conservation strategies, including smaller parcels, multi-lot clustering, conservation easements, and the dedication of environmental reserve. The proposed subdivision is not infringing on the environmentally sensitive areas within the parcel given its proposed location and clusters the 2 proposed lots adjacent to one another, lessening the impacts on alternate land uses in this location. Section 3.5 of the NDP states that developing a strong, diversified tourism economy is of great importance to the county. The section goes on to state the public lake access is one component of this strategy. The proposal does not take away from this lake access from Eagle Lake. Section 3.3 looks at policy framework for residential development applications. The application aligns with the objectives in this section as it minimizes cumulative impacts to the land and provides additional housing in the county. Through the Eagle Lake Area Structure Plan, the proposed subdivision is located within the ASP bylaw 99-05, which received 3rd reading on October 5th, 1999. The Eagle Lake Area Structure Plan identifies key goals such as noting appropriate areas for future residential, commercial, and recreational development and to identify and minimize potential negative impacts of new development. The Eagle Lake Area Structure Plan divides the plan into 5 distinctive policy areas which have different goals and policies that apply to them. As it does not fall within the Eagle Lake Direct Control District, it does not have to adhere to the more stringent policy requirements that would apply to a development in this particular area. It falls within the general agricultural policy zone of the plan area. Staff is of the opinion that due to the age of the Eagle Lake Area Structure Plan of 16 plus years, the focus on general agricultural land uses as remaining key policy is outdated and the country residential is still an acceptable use within the plan area. Through the RGMS, Regional Growth Management Strategy, Section 4.3 directs growth for county, and the relevant themes identified in Section 4.3 were compared to the merits of this subdivision application. The proposed subdivision would remove grazing land from production with the proposed 2 5-acre parcels. As per the RGMS, fragmentation and removal of agricultural land shall be limited, which is accomplished through the smaller country residential parcels proposed, minimizing the impacts on agricultural land. It would also not constrain agricultural activities as it minimizes the cumulative impacts on the land through the smaller size of the parcels. Proposed subdivision meets the goals in the natural environment section of the RGMS as the location has been set back from identified natural areas, minimizing environmental disturbance. The community development section has also been addressed through the development of the country residential lots, as it's within the growth node of Eagle Lake identified in both the MDP and the RGMS. Through the land use bylaw, because it was redesignated country residential, it was analyzed through this district. It fits within the purpose of the development and is in alignment with the type of development discussed in the Eagle Lake ASP. As per the requirements of the CR district, animal unit requirements will be based upon the land use bylaw, and the ASP mentions its own policies regarding animal units which are not applicable, as the LUB will supersede this policy. As well, animal units have also been removed from the current land use bylaw unless it's in a hamlet zoned area. Access is through Range Road 250, and septic servicing is currently not on the site, and so a PSDS report was submitted for the application and reviewed by McElhaney. They identified some technical concerns with the PSDS report that would affect the conclusion and recommendations for and subsequent designs for private sewage treatment systems. Otherwise, there was no indication that a private septic system could not be supported on the proposed parcels. Staff are therefore confident with a private septic system on the site if it's to occur. Water servicing was also non-existent on the site, so a Phase 1 groundwater assessment report was submitted and reviewed by McElhaney. McElhaney supports the recommendation in the Phase 1 groundwater feasibility assessment, and that site-specific well drilling and aquifer flow testing be conducted to verify adequate groundwater reserve exists for the proposed subdivisions. The municipal reserve was completed by Deep Pollard on April 7th, 2017, and the appraised value is approximately $4,000 per acre for the 10-acre subdivision. The final appraisal will be determined with the final plan of survey prior to endorsement. Circulation for adjacent landowners. The proposal was circulated to all landowners within a half mile of the subject lands. The current land use bylaw has extended the circulation to 1 mile. To 1 mile. However, at the time of circulation, land use bylaw 2016-01 was not in effect, and therefore circulation was done under the policies of LUB 2007-56. No letters were received in objection or approval of the subdivision. For external circulation, Alberta Environment had no concerns. Alberta Health Services had their standard 4 comments. ATCO Pipelines had no concerns. Fortis had no concerns. TELUS and Western Irrigation had no concerns. And through internal circulation, Transportation and Infrastructure requested a shared approach for the 2 parcels. There are 2 possible options for MPC's consideration that, let's just be, I see. Let's actually go back up to the RFD here, which is, there you go. So option 1 is that subdivision application SD 2017-16 be approved with the conditions noted in Appendix A, or option 2, subdivision SD 2017-16 be refused. Staff recommends option 1 to be approved as per the following comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns? Brenda?
Yeah, I do. I have, I guess I just turned down agricultural general for a 20-acre parcel, and then I sit here and get 2 subdivisions on within area structure plans and growth management strategies and all these different things. And we didn't do an agricultural assessment on it, I guess because of the size of the parcels. And I guess my concern over that is the fact that native grass is just as important as any kind of farm and agricultural land. And yet we've done no agricultural impact or assessment through this. So we can subdivide take 2 parcels out, 10 acres, and turn it into country residential. And so I see that there's something wrong with this, I guess, because we didn't do any agricultural assessment on these two parcels. And I said on Action for Agriculture as something I do on the sideline. And native grasses are just as important to our province as anything else, as any cropland. So I'm suggesting that maybe the matrix needs to be used on all these parcels. So.
Thank you. Alice?
And I have a comment too, and we turned down, we have ag general to ag general, which we just turned down because it's fragmenting farmland. And then we make a comment here that our ag general policy is outdated and needs to be brought up to date. So you have to be consistent on this stuff. If it's outdated, then we shouldn't be quoting it on one to use to turn something down and then quoting it for another to accept. I mean, it's ludicrous. It's got to be consistent if we're going to do this stuff. I mean, and now we're saying, no, it's okay in this area. We just turned it down, just turned the guy down. And then we say it's okay here. I'm sorry, but it's frustrating.
Through the chair, an agricultural report wasn't done for the subdivision because there was one previously done for the redesignation. And for that redesignation file, agricultural land assessment stated a recommendation for the application to be denied. So at the time, the land use land use file itself had the land assessment, just not the subdivision, because they were basing it off of the previous recommendation they had given when the report was brought in for redesignation. So if you can still look at this land assessment for the land use redesignation, and it's up to the discretion of MPC to use that for the subdivision. As well, when the comment was made that the focus on the general agricultural land uses in the area structure plan was outdated, it was referring to Eagle Lake area structure plan, not the MDP and not the land use bylaw. So it was specifically to Eagle Lake area structure plan. I was identifying it as that, not the current documents we have right now.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, because it just sounded not, you know, it just came out and it hit me so suddenly. I think, what are we talking about here? But yeah, again, I find it very difficult to move on and do this when we've just made the decision that any parcel that comes out of ag general is fragmenting land. I mean, that's I question Angie on this because I wanted to get a clearer view of where planning is going. Because, you know, with the new land use and all of the things that we're doing in Wheatland County, all of us have to understand exactly where this county is going and what we want to accomplish. And right now, we seem to be all over the map. And it's frustrating for me sitting here because I see one person denied and another accepted. And I think somehow we've got to have a really good conversation with all of us and see where we want to go here. It's hard to make decisions rationally and with respect to the applicant and the taxpayer by what we're doing here. I find it's frustrating.
Through the chair, remember this is inside an area structure plan that was designed back in 1999 by council for future residential growth. That's what we're looking at here is the residential growth of that area structure plan. It was designated, that whole area was designated for residential growth. That's what we're looking at.
And may I answer that? So was the ag general, and it was allowed to be subdivided into an ag small holding, and it was all ag land, and yet we turned it down. So if we're going to use that rationale, we have to use it all the way through.
If you want to go back, and the one that we just turned down, and we shouldn't be going to, but if you want to go back and do an area structure plan on that whole area.
You don't need it, because it's ag general, and it's allowed, dwelling allowed on. This is what I'm saying.
Okay, we heard. Any other questions, concerns? Don?
I'd like to have us revisit this ag small holdings and country residential designation again. 'Cause
I
there
believe
is-
it's on for the next,
Because there is small,
we presently are doing a review. Staff is looking at it.
good, okay.
Okay, and for clarification, there is no ag small holdings anymore.
Yeah.
And staff is doing a review on it
thank you.
for sure. And this parcel here has been rezoned. It's been subject to a public hearing, and the public come in, and at the time, the council decided to rezone it. So this is the same, and yet it's not the same. And it's in a different area of the province. Angie?
Thank you. Just for some clarification for Councillor Booth, I know that this is a little bit confusing, but the main thing to remember for this area, that both the MDP and the RGMS state that this is a growth node area. And that was already sort of mandated years ago in your Eagle Lake area structure plan. So there's going to be certain areas within your county that are good for growth and certain areas that are not good for growth. That growth falls in residential, commercial, industrial, institutional, etc. In order to maintain your agricultural base so that it functions correctly and is not have problems with other uses, making that problematic for the farmers to undertake that day-to-day operation, you need to be very careful where you are putting that growth. The planning department looks very carefully at every application, no matter what the use is being requested. As this has already been previously rezoned through the process, through council, council deemed that it was okay to have this land used as not agricultural anymore, but as country residential moving forward. The planning department agrees with this because this area in its location close to, really fairly close to Strathmore and to this Eagle Lake area is going to build up as a residential area. Saying that, we need to be very, very careful with this area because there are some highly sensitive environmental lands in this area, and we will be looking at it very carefully with MPC and council to maintain the integrity of this land.
Okay. Any other
Thanks
questions?
for that, Andrew.
Any other questions? Rex?
Okay, so you are saying that it's already been redesignated through the chair, so it's been redesignated. Yeah, I think there's probably a few things that we need to look at for that area. I'm struggling with this a lot, but I don't know, I'm really not in favor of doing the subdivision, but I don't know how I can sit in the chair and redesignate the property and then not give them the subdivision. So for me, that becomes difficult. So I would just ask that moving forward that maybe these are some of the questions we need to start asking before we move ahead. So with that being said, for this file, I am going to go ahead and move approval with the conditions given for SD 2017-16.
Okay, any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? None. Carried. Thank you. Okay, that's it for subdivisions. We had a chance for discussion on putting division numbers on applications, and Colton had some comments for that.
Through the chair, I just wanted to provide planning's background and why we removed it, and then we can discuss and hear your thoughts on that and how we'd like to move forward. But we removed the names of who the landowners are and the division number from the application because we want to have a more, and I'm not saying there's been a biased view or any decision making in regards to it, but emotion does play a key role in land use planning. We've seen that, but it shouldn't be part of the table. We should be just looking at the policies and the documents in the land without any attachments or emotions related to a certain landowner we might have worked with in the past or known through relationships, that type of thing. So we're just trying to take that out of the equation, as well as with the division numbers. Every councillor has an equal vote on every decision. We want less of a focus on tying specific decision making to a particular division and rather having everyone look at every application holistically and through the eyes as one of 7 votes on council. So that was our rationale as to why we removed it, but it'd be great to hear what others what the council has to, or MPC has to say on that.
Go ahead, Bernice.
So in general, then, you're just trying to make it very neutral, that we're not coming with preconceived ideas or anything like that, just a neutral base.
That's correct. And not just for council and MPC, but also for adjacent landowners. When we've been circulating our notices, the names go out to all the adjacent landowners, and the certain kind of, whether it's, if there's, say, a certain kind of communal farm operation or a certain family, people's responses are sometimes, I find, to be tailored to that, and the letters actually note the specific maybe issues that have taken place in the past, and people are less concerned on what actually that application is for. So we're just trying to remove any of those kind of considerations to have as neutral a decision as possible made.
Yeah, I can see some of the validity that you're talking about there. Yeah.
You don't have to put the names down under FOIP, but I haven't got all day to look up county map to see where this one is and that one is. I haven't got time. My life is real short, damn short.
I'm a lot like Don. I think if the application is in, the application is before us, regardless of, and for me, if you don't want to include it on this, is fine, right? The agenda, and then nobody picks up on it. But if you're going to go through the application, for me, it has to be a complete application. We used to actually see the original application forms, like, that used to be included, like their hand-done application, that has since removed. So if you're going to do a planning report, to me, including that stuff is a finished planning report, right? That's your planning report to us, and that's the applicant, the whatever, you know what I'm saying? The only other thing, that comment that I had is, I believe it was file 2016-79. Is the map just upside down for me, or am I wrong on that one? Is north not to the top of the page?
Through the chair, it was done that way to show, because it was an 80-acre split, and so for, I guess, formatting, it was easier to flip the page so that it could fit everything.
Okay.
And it is to the north. That's correct. It is to the north, the parcel
So
itself.
it should have been reversed.
Yeah, it's when they put it through on here, it's a little difficult to get it to reverse itself that way, but I will take that in consideration if there's a
Yeah,
future
'cause I
map
was
that
like,
way. So,
okay,
yeah, if
am I
it's south, yeah, I'll remember to do that for a future
Just
report.
a thought, I guess, because when I look at everything, it's usually north is on the top of the page. And then whoever did the municipal planning meeting forgot the big M on there, you see? The big M. Not that I'm being critical, but I was like, oh, big M. But no, I think that if you're doing a final plan report, that has to be included. And it's not just for us as a whole, but it's put out to the public as well, right? So I don't know, they have to, I guess they can look up, the information's there. I mean, I did it today. I found, the information is on this map. Names are for the landowners, everything's here. And so if anybody wants to look at it, it's capable of doing it. And I've already gone through and wrote it down and put the divisions and done all that, so.
My comment too is, I'm like Dawn, I'm busy, and it's nice to see the divisions, but I agree with Colton. And I've always tried to keep that open mind that I don't care which division it's in. And as you noticed with mine today, we had a really good conversation with the board about the things I brought up that I was concerned about. And I expect all the councillors to do that, whether it's my division or it's Dawn's or whoever's, because that's what we're here for. We're not here to, because it's my area, we're going to take exception to things. We have to look at the document and what's put before us. And that's the way I tried to do it, so it's not swaying me, the person's name or what he's done or what he hasn't or what the gossip is, right? Because that's what you're worried about is somebody that's got a grudge can come in and cause havoc. But then we're all adults here, we're all on this board, and we're to, weed all of that out and look at the facts. And that's our job. I think we do pretty well on that. We can always improve, but, you know, so I think if you're going to be open and transparent to the public, it needs to be there. And because it's, then somebody can turn around and say, what are you hiding? So we don't want to hide anything. And the person is a taxpayer, they're a ratepayer. They come in with the application, they know their name is going to be, it's got to be on the application. It can't be Mr. Don Joe or Sam Smith or whatever. So I don't think that we need to, you know, fixate on that. I think we need to be straight. What it is what it is. It comes before the MPC. All the information is there. That's the way I look at it.
Any other comments? I'm just scrolling through all the apps today. I'm wondering if I could change anything, what I would change. And you know, there's nothing I would want to change on here. You start out with your summary sheet. I know it doesn't have the division number on it, but that's maybe the issue or not. Then you go into the background and the policy review, and it's all the technical stuff. Then it goes into recommendations, and it goes into what it actual features in the reports. I think it's very well done. I find it very non-partial, and I'm thinking, what would the division or names add to it? No, I don't think it would add anything, maybe detract. For me, myself, I'm quite happy the way it is. And thanks for all the effort. I've seen these things come a long ways in the last couple of years or more. So no, I like it. Anything else, Rex?
Yeah, I like it too. I think it's maybe something we should definitely try and see how it goes. It might help be a little less bias if there is any at all, and I think we all do our best and work hard at it. I guess I feel for Don a little bit. You know, I'll look it up or whatever, but I don't know if there's anything we can do to help him so that when he's going through the applications, he's able to locate them. I think that's maybe what the division numbers might do. We don't need the names. I don't know if still putting the division number still adds that bias. I don't know.
Instead of a division number, you see sometimes you can have a map of the whole county. Then beside it, you have a map of the thing, and you have an arrow pointing where it is. That might help too. Is that a growth area? Is that agriculture? You wouldn't have to, Angie?
Thank you. Yes, with the planning department, what we look at is we don't look at divisions because divisions are a political entity. What I look at from my geographic background is I usually split it into quarters, so north, south, east, west, that kind of thing. And then I look at the landscape. Is this a predominantly agricultural area, or is there water bodies, et cetera, et cetera? So what we can do is put, whether it's in the northeast section or southwest section of the county, if that would help you. If you really want the divisions on the agenda and on the planning report, that really isn't a big deal for us, to be quite honest. But we would prefer not to put the name of the landowner or the applicant on there. What I have noticed in our research is looking at other municipalities, particularly rural ones, there are no names on the application forms or in the planning reports. And I think this is because there has been instances where, through the circulation particularly, comments have been made by adjacents, etc., not based on the application, as Colton and Odessa have mentioned, but based on previous memories or relationships between those landowners. And that has then unfortunately tainted not only the planning department's recommendations and difficulties with working with that application, but then through MPC and council as well.
Okay, thanks. Rex?
Well, just one comment towards that, and I know exactly where you're coming from, and I do agree, but we are elected through a division system, not through members at large, so we are in part accountable to sometimes a smaller portion of the county. So that's, to me, where that comes from. So the people that, the residents or taxpayers, whoever it is, that are making those applications do look at us a little differently than they look at maybe somebody else on the board. So, you know, I think that's where that might come in. You know, I would like it to be a whole unbiased one board, but if there's any issues with that application, whoever that person lies in the division, they come to that counselor generally as a rule, not always, but generally. So.
Anything, Brenda?
The bias are there regardless of whether you put the name there or not there. We just had a gentleman walk in and said he represented 30,000 acres of farmland, and the decision was changed because of those comments. It had no bearing on the actual application. It was because somebody walked in and said he represented 30,000 acres of farmland. So I don't think, to be honest with you, the names and the divisions, doesn't matter. You're going to get it regardless. And if I get an application to, and I'm a receipt of one of those letters that you send out in this, they're going to know who it is, and it's going to come back to, you can't fix this stuff that happens out there. So for me, it's not an issue whether you put the name on, off, or the division on or off. And it is what it is. So, and if you're going to get it, whether it comes or not. So.
Anybody else have any comments?
I can't let you say that. I don't know. I don't want to get into a whole nother topic, but how can you say, but somebody walked in and said they represent 12, 20, 40, 50, 60,000 acres, and then all of a sudden everybody's vote changed? Seriously? Are you accusing somebody here on this board of that?
That's what happened.
Okay, because like that's you're accusing me of changing my mind based on somebody's acre count.
No, what I said was a person came in here and made a statement that he represented 30,000.
And we changed our mind based on that. That's an accusation, Brenda. I'm not trying to start a fight with you, but I'm just saying.
I just said that
I don't feel like sit here on this board. I don't feel like I sit here on this board and make decisions based on that, and I think that's an unfair statement.
No, but I just stated an actual person walked in here and said that.
Okay.
And you're going to get those people that came, and we just talked about, you said yourself.
Let's just back up here. I don't want to turn this into something that wasn't intended to be. But during the process of a public hearing, everybody's got the right to come up and speak their mind, and it is up to the councillors listening to the public hearing to weigh that information and make a decision. So if that was the straw that tipped it to the other side, so be it. On any individual councillor, it's up to that individual councillor to decide. Being said that, if you have one thing that ended up and that was the straw, what it could be said if that was said at the beginning and was something else tipped the straw? It's preponderance of the evidence, so that it's nothing more, nothing less. It's every councillor's information to state it as, that's why you changed your mind. I think that's an incorrect statement, okay, for me. And it sounds like it is for Rex. If you're relying on one statement to change your mind, I think you should all research and have a good look at yourself of what you're using to make your decisions on. Okay, but without getting into any specifics, this isn't a place to have this discussion. You want to have this discussion, we'll have it at a different time and place. Okay?
Just out of curiosity, I would like to clarify, because Angie had just spoke about the fact that there's things that came in with regardless of what happens with amongst neighbors and whatever. That was another example. I wasn't suggesting that you changed your mind or anything like that, but that's what has happened. People have come in and made generalized statements and with no actual evidence. It's part of the public hearing process. But that's what happens. And that's why I said it doesn't matter to me whether the name's on it or the name or the division's on it or whatever, because those public hearings and what comes in through those doors may influence or not influence us, and that's what it is. So, but I didn't say that, and so I apologize if I offended you, Mr. Harwood.
Okay. Ben?
Just comment that Rex had said that we're elected as councillors in certain divisions, and you're right, you are elected by division, but you represent the county. And one of the hardest things I found over the last 25 years is talking to the ratepayers, and they come at you because they don't think you represented them properly, but you have to remember that, and telling them that, yes, you've elected me in that place, but for the better interest of the municipality, we had to look at whatever the decision was, whether it was rezoning some property for commercial growth or whatever it was. But yeah, you're right. I understand what you're saying, but you're elected by the division, but you represent the county. So to me, it doesn't matter. It looks, I get this stuff at home. I can go through it. I can look up whichever ones I want. I know pretty darn fast where it's at and what names to put to it if I need a name to it. But that's not an issue to me.
Okay, any other discussion to this topic?
Yeah, and I just want to clarify what I had said earlier. All of that information that comes, good or bad or whatever, it's up to us as a board to sift through that and make the best possible decision for the greater good and not be swayed. That's the tough thing, is being swayed. And I think we do a pretty good job. No, are we perfect? No, and I'm certainly number one on the list. I'm not perfect, but I try to look at the big picture, and I think that's what all of us do. So we can only do our best.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is basically no changes? Safe statement? Okay, thanks. Okay. Motion? All in favor? Carried.